Hello and welcome to webinar series hosted by Happiest Health. Happiest Health is a global knowledge platform for health and wellness. I am Kumaran and I will be your host for today's session on how junk food and lifestyle leads to diabetes. Our sponsors for this session is Steviocol, a natural sweetener. It has no sugar and no carbs, making it a perfect choice for diet management and a healthy lifestyle. Happiest Health will be launching a diabetes management program called Living Without Diabetes soon. We will open the registrations this week. Through this program, you will be able to incorporate healthier habits into your daily routine and will see your blood glucose levels coming down steadily with each module. After you register, we will send you all the modules in your inbox and you will learn what to do and what not to do to manage your blood glucose levels. So please watch the space as we unveil our most anticipated program of this year. India seems to be set to become the global capital of diabetes with 101 million people diagnosed with diabetes and another 236 million living with pre-diabetes. Unhealthy dietary patterns and sedentary lifestyle are the major factors responsible for this high prevalence of type 2 diabetes in our country. According to a recent World Health Organization report, Indians spent rupees 2,535 billion to buy ultra-processed food in 2021, and this has been on the rise since then. Our eminent panelists will discuss the role of healthy diet in effective diabetes management and why junk and ultra-processed food is responsible not just for diabetes, but also for its comorbidities, including cardiovascular disease. To introduce our eminent panel members, we have with us Dr. Anup Misra, Executive Chairman, Fortis CDOC Hospital for Diabetes and Allied Sciences and Director, National Diabetes, Obesity and Cholesterol Foundation. He's also the president of Diabetes Foundation India. He has more than 350 published research papers analyzed by Stanford University to be among the top 2% scientists across all specialized and diabetes or all specialties from India ranked globally. He is an editor-in-chief, Diabetes and Metabolic Syndrome, Clinical Research and Reviews Elsevier, Impact Factor 10. He is a member of Academic Board of British Medical Journal, member of BMJ's Regional Advisory Board for South Asia, and a member of the Lancet Commission on Obesity 2023 to 2024. He is a Padma Shri awardee by the President of India and Dr. B.C. Roy awardee. He is an author of the book Diabetes with Delight, published in English and Hindi. We are privileged to have you here, sir. We welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our second panel member is Ms. Ishi Khosla, clinical nutritionist, columnist, author, entrepreneur, public health expert, and welfare worker. She's actively involved in clinical practice at the Centre For Dietary Counseling in Delhi, where she deals with a wide range of nutrition-related health conditions, including obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, digestive disorders, food allergies, etc. Passionate about nutrition and a strong believer in the power of foods, she founded the first of its kind health food company in India, Whole Foods. As part of her commitment to the public health and community nutrition, Ms. Khosla founded the Celiac Society of India, the first of its kind public health forum to spread awareness about gluten-related disorders in India. She has authored 5 books in the last 25 years and contributed articles to several publications: 4G, Code to Good Health, Eating at Work, The Diet Doctor, The Cholesterol Facts, and many more to her accolades. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Our next eminent panelist, Dr. Bansi Sabu, Chief Diabetologist and Chairman of DiaCare Diabetes Care and Hormone Clinic at Ahmedabad. He is the International Diabetes Federation Chair-elect for Southeast Asia 2023-2024. He is the Vice President of Diabetes in Asia Study Group, Managing Editor for Sadiko's International Textbook of Diabetes. He has numerous publications in his indexed journals and has contributed chapters in various textbooks and monograms. He has launched a project, Diabetes Free India 2030, acknowledged by Honorable President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee. He is also a founder of an NGO, Diabetes Care India and India Sweet Registry Project. We welcome you, sir.
Hello. Thank you.
To begin with our discussion today, let me first start by asking Dr. Anup Misra. Doctor, usually the onset of type 2 diabetes is seen among middle-aged and older adults. But we are now witnessing young adults are also getting diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. What is the reason for this trend and also for the high prevalence of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes among young adults? Over to
So
you,
first
sir.
of all, thank you for inviting me here. I'm in the August company, and I'm sure we'll
Sure,
sort of complement each other in the answers.
sure.
This trend is not new. I remember when I was in All India Institute of Medical Sciences in 2004, we wrote a paper about children getting type 2 diabetes. This was published in Diabetic Medicine in 2005. And that particular year, we collated the data of young type 2 diabetes from Delhi and found around 56 cases. But that is just the beginning. And the curve has gone upwards pretty fast last 15 years. And we are now seeing 13-year-old, 14-year-old children with type 2 diabetes. The main reason being the obesity. This is the main reason. This obesity is the main reason for insulin resistance. Obesity is the main reason for type 2 diabetes. And behind that is the change in the lifestyle. I think this is the singular change. The genes remain the same. Our lifestyle and environment has changed totally. So these young people, if they are in 20s or early 30s, they are in a competitive job. They're working 10 to 12 hours a day, and they don't have any time for exercise. They are eating whatever they can get in the canteen or otherwise outside. And on the weekend, there's a huge amount of junk food as well as alcohol. And they often come to me with high sugar and large liver, which are particularly bad in Indian population. And these people are making it worse with a combination of junk food and alcohol. Simple changes in the lifestyle actually can lead to reversal of diabetes in these young individuals. But it is something which is hard to do, which should be achieved. So message of healthy lifestyle has not gone across the younger generation, and this needs a transformative change, not a simple change. And that change must come from the policymakers, from the government, and from all of us.
Right, doctor. That's very clearly put that there needs to be a policy as well for the youngsters population who are actually coming into prevalence of diabetes. Taking that point across to Ms. Ishi Khosla, ma'am, there are newer versions of ultra-processed food that are being marketed as healthy food, especially flavored yogurt and milk-based drinks. How healthy are these, especially for people with diabetes?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me today. And here, the question that you ask is that, I'd just like to clarify that all processed foods are not bad, because even milk can be packed in a processed, which is safe. Lots of things need to be processed to become safe, but it's really what you're really referring to as curd and the milk-based products being healthy, particularly for diabetes. That's a huge question. I mean, it is a weighty question with many qualifications, and it has taken me about 30 years of my practice to come to certain conclusions, because in in our textbook education and in our early practice, in early days, we have insisted that, dairy products are good for us and for managing obesity and diabetes and metabolic syndrome. And of course, too much would be counterproductive. But here today, I would have to revisit those guidelines and talk more in terms of what these products do to individuals. And so it's not like everybody is the same. So individuals, simply because we are now referring to customized solutions with respect to diet, and everybody has a digestive capacity or what we call a gut microbiome, which can tolerate or process dairy, and the other way around may not be able to do it. And in my opinion, today with the modernization of food, we have lost tolerance to many foods which were intrinsically healthy and were traditionally good for us. So that includes wheat, that includes dairy, and for no fault of the individual, a lot of people lose tolerance for lactose with age, and that's a documented fact. That's not to be contested. But the tolerance to casein, we are seeing that people who have food sensitivities, these are the people who get metabolic syndrome and metabolic abnormalities and diabetes, particularly on this forum. I'd like to emphasize that today it's clear that dysbiosis or a change in the gut is directly correlated to inflammation and development of both type 2 and type 1 diabetes. So keeping that science in mind, I would say the answer is no. Processed yogurts, etc., may not be the healthiest for people with diabetes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to Dr. Bansi Sabu, my next question would be about, there has been a recent trend where people seem to have slightly slowed down on the consumption of sweets and biscuits, but have taken fancy or for salt-based packaged savories or namkeens for that matter. How will this affect the health of people with diabetes in the long run, sir?
First of all, thank you for inviting me, and particularly I'm really grateful to you that today I'm invited with Dr. Anup Mishra. That's really wonderful for me, because it's a first day of New Year, and in Gujarat I greet everyone a Happy New Year and Happy Deepavali. We tell everyone Happy and Healthy New Year, but we forget that how to become healthy, because that's a very important message. I think today, being a World Diabetes Day and doing a webinar on a New Year, I mean, how to become happy and healthy, that's very important. So health is very, very important. As you are rightly saying that people are thinking that, yes, they should not consume the more of sweet food, but at the same time, they forget the fried items, which is very commonly used and what they use. Since last many years, Dr. Anup Mishra talked about the newer obesity guideline. At the same time, he talked about the fast food, and the fast food is just not that packaged food which is available. That is only the fast food. Fast food is that samosa on a roadside is also very junk food, and which is also contain a lot of salt. So fried and salt intake in our country is very, very high, and it is increasing day by day. As you are saying that cookies and overall the sweet consumption, they may think that they are actually reducing, but multiple times people are eating. The snacking during, festival time, they may think that they are not taking 2 gulab jamun 80 times, but at multiple times they eat, and every time they have some small quantity, and that increases also the calorie. So it's not healthy, and it increases not only the cholesterol, the fried food increases the bad cholesterol. That's a very, very bad, and it increases the risk of atherosclerosis very high. Overall, this junk food increase of calorie intake increases the risk for metabolic syndrome. As we have this newer obesity guideline by Dr. Anup Mishra, now we know that it's not that 25 BMI in an Indian condition, and only with BMI is not the right way of calculating someone is whether unhealthy or healthy. It's the BMI, it is the central obesity, and multiple factors which are responsible. So the food consumption is very important, and they should understand, the lay person if their family member, if someone who is relative, near and dear one, they are going to the doctors, they must go and ask that how they can prevent themselves from getting these diseases, that is, these non-communicable diseases, and where the doctor can rightly guide them. What are the food? What are the items? What is your exercise? How much you should do? What is your, overall obesity? That everything will be counted, and accordingly they will be given the advice. So the people, they think that occasionally eating this junk food or fried food or containing a lot of salts, is it healthy? No, it's not at all healthy, and it should not be consumed. That is the message which I would like to give on this for diabetes.
We were also talking about a point that how consumption of salt, basically, as you said, the festivals, you might consume sweets and frequent intervals of consumption of sweets. But I think that is now replaced with a little bit of salt.
The salt increases now. Averagely, people are consuming almost 10 grams, 7 to 10 grams per day. And ideally, it should be less than 5 grams. And those people where we are writing salt restricted diet, definitely it should be less than 5. So, I mean, this increases the risk of hypertension very, very high. And in our country, the hypertension incidence is more in compared to even diabetes. So you can understand that this is one of the very important comorbid condition or a cardiovascular risk factor for heart and kidney both. So we must check regularly, not only from diet point of view, but also for the undiagnosed hypertension patient and those who are having hypertension, even they are not achieving the target blood pressure control also. And where the food is important reason for them, it is the high salt intake which is responsible for them to get hypertension even in young age also.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabu. Coming back to Dr. Anup Misra, sir, I would like to give a statistic about Indians have brought around 628 tons of instant noodles in 2021, according to WHO report. This is a massive figure for us. What are the health dangers of consuming more instant and ready-to-eat food materials, despite the fact that it is easier to make, it's easier to cook as well? You're on mute, sir. Yes.
Okay, I think much of it has been covered by Dr. Bansi Shabu, who's beautifully explained that what could be dangers of such foods. And but if you look at the specifically regarding the noodles, these are refined carbohydrates. And if you look at the masala of the noodles, it has high salt content. So, and they are processed. So, processed food, high salt food, and refined carbohydrate, a deadly combination here. A deadly combination for liver, for kidney, as well as for arteries. So, if you look at what are the problems in the instant food, we have already listed a refined carbohydrate is one problem. High salt content is another problem. The processed food, these are another problem. And then the other associated problems of what Dr. Bansi Shabu has already mentioned, that we cannot say that these instant noodles or Western food are the only problems. Our Indian foods are major problems. And if you look at the roadside vendors, they will put a samosa or a tikki in a boiling oil, and that oil is likely to be partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, which has a high trans fatty acid content. Sometime back, one of my students did a PhD on this alone, this topic of oil, and found that if you heat and reheat the same oil in a kadai and reach a high temperature, then 150% more trans fatty acid will be produced. And you take any oil, but partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, vanaspati, is one of the main culprits. So you need to choose the right kind of oil. You do not reheat in, even the Indian, the women, they will try to preserve oil and reheat the same oil. please discard that oil. That oil is poison. And take fresh oil. And ideally, oils which are simplest oil is the mustard oil, will be the best oil. And avoid the saturated fat. Now, saturated fat is and trans fat is there in many of the ready-to-eat articles. And saturated fat, ghee, coconut oil, all these things will uh, come inside the body and get deposited in the arteries or liver and will not leave you. And what consequence we see is blocked arteries, terrible livers, and kidney failure. So that if you look at that, you need to be balanced in your approach. You, out of 7 days, 6 days, if you eat well, and one day you can do a little bit of party. Nobody prevents that. We were not straitjacketing anybody.
Right. Thank you, Doctor. So for highlighting that, for example, the starking explanation that you gave about the entire samosa vendors making that entire oil is so poison. Coming to that particular point, Ms. Ishi Khosla, I was about to actually ask about this oil and the entire fried food. But then the other question that I would pose to you is how meat products and how is that coming into diabetes management? Is it okay? And to what extent people are consuming? And what are the precautions to be taken?
Okay. So, what we tend to do is we tend to isolate things and food groups, nutrients, and then do our research and then come to conclusions. And sometimes that can become a bit distorted. And that's what happens, like talking about vegetarianism, veganism, and the importance of looking at meats per se. If you look at that, not having meats versus having meats, there is no clear-cut answer there. And the answer is, first of all, you have to qualify what is meat. Where is it produced? What kind of meat is it? Whether it is red meat or whether it's fish or whether it is poultry. So that needs to be defined. How is it produced? So in isolation, I would say, Kumaran, that it is all right to take non-vegetarian food if you have to, but it is a quantity, and the rest of the diet, that is also important. That means how much you're taking, and as a part of an unhealthy diet, which is loaded with trans fats, like we were talking about, or is it a generally healthy diet? And the meats are healthy, well, they're not loaded with all kinds of hormones and all the kinds of additives which are given to the animal to boost their growth and productivity. So it depends on what it is. So individually, it's difficult to answer, but if you're taking a certain amount of non-vegetarian food on a regular basis, make sure that the quality is good, the poultry is not laden with these things, and the fact that the rest of the diet must be rich in plant food. So if you're looking at vegetables, if you're looking at fruits, you're looking at nuts, good fats, overall anti-inflammatory diet. Again, there are meats which are processed, yes, which include, all the sausages and salamis and bacons and all of that. Now, those are clearly, there's a clear-cut answer there that they have no part in a healthy diet. And if somebody is consuming them on a regular basis, you are having a pro-inflammatory food, which is laden with pesticides, with preservatives, and those will 100% destroy the gut flora, the good gut microbiome, and lead to negative consequences. So I think that answer is very clear. With respect to general meats, you need to define them, the quantities, and the individual also. But if I say that vegetarians are healthier, that's not true.
Okay. Right. Right, ma'am. So the entire mix of vegetarian food and the non-vegetarian food. Also, I would also
I would just like to add one more point. And if you look at the epidemiological data across the world, where the lowest incidence of these metabolic problems, including diabetes and heart disease, etc., are in countries where non-vegetarian food is eaten, but as in a different milieu, in a different setting. So we really can't come to these conclusions. But what is clear is excess of meat is contraindicated, and processed meats are completely out.
Right. Mostly in Indian scenario, there were people who were actually going out to a poultry shop or anything and then buy. I think nowadays with the entire online booking of even the meat delivering at home, like you said, the sausages being delivered and things like that. So how careful, and then the precautions that people need to be taking on these kind of orders?
So I'd agree. I would draw from what Dr. Mishra said that, if you're taking, using it like a treat once in a while, once in a month, twice in a month, and overall having a healthy lifestyle, they're not going to kill you. That's fine. But like I said earlier, if you're making it a part of your diet daily, there's a problem. So, and that becomes very easy, like you rightly said. If it is just a click away and a call away, it just becomes all the more easy and therefore more frequent. And there's something also to be said about a disturbed gut microbiome, that when you disturb it, whether it's through ABC product, you develop a leaky gut and also develop what we call rather you lose control of your appetite controlling mechanisms. You lose control of the craving mechanisms, which are protecting you typically in the gut. They are all controlled by the microbes. So when you disturb it, you definitely become more and more addicted to these foods. So there is that element of loss of control, loss of willpower, which happens when you eat foods which are disturbing our microbiome. And we see that with foods. When you eat a healthy, clean diet, your cravings come down, your willpower improves, your appetite gets shrunk, and all of that.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Khosla. Let me move on to Dr. Sabu again. Doctor, so there are a lot of diabetes reversal programs that project that removing simple carbs from the diet is the way to achieve diabetes reversal. Is this actually a healthy way to deal with diabetes?
It's a very important question, and I think it's today, as you are saying very rightly, that on many social media platforms you are seeing about the reversal of diabetes. There are few important papers which were published, and one of the important paper which I will say that this reversal paper, which is a direct trial, which proved that diabetes can be reversed. So on a scientific say, we were studying at that time, we were talking that diabetes is a progressive disease. But yes, some of them can be reversed also. Now, who are they which can be reversed? That's very important. And it's very scientific, and only doctor who is treating. It cannot be done by anyone, number one. Only simple low-carb diet or only by reducing the calorie, you may not reverse for anyone who is having diabetes. Because diabetes also could be because of severe insulin deficiency, or it could be because of severe insulin resistance, or somebody has developed a type 1 diabetes. He may not reverse. It is only with the person who has developed obesity or overweight. The person, if he can reduce his weight by 15% or more, and that too with the onset of diabetes within few years, maybe in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, less than 5 years of their onset of diabetes. If they are developing diabetes because of obesity, they are reducing it diet by low-calorie diet and low-carb diet, and doing good exercise, increasing their muscle strengthening exercise, and improving their insulin resistance. Yes, some people, they can reverse the diabetes, but it should be under medical supervision. Not like that anyone who's talking about diabetes reversal and then people are just enrolling themselves in a reversal program, and then they find that no, it is not working, and then they again come to the doctors. So the doctors decide, we talk to them, how much they are motivated, how much their family is thinking that yes, they can be done. But even if someone cannot be reversed completely, I'm sure that lifestyle modification and providing them under a proper medical supervision, many of the time we can reduce their significantly number of medication. We can improve their lot of risk factors like dyslipidemia, hypertension. Even they reduce by 10% of their body weight. There are a lot of metabolic benefits which they are going to get. They may not stop their complete medication, but still there is a lot of benefits which they are going to get. So, I mean, we should not talk only about the reversal or remission. I think we should talk about the lifestyle modification, which can help them for not only weight reduction, but also modifying their other risk factors also.
True. That's right, Doctor. Thank you so much. We move on to Dr. Misra. Doctor, so usually food rich in protein, healthy fat, and complex carbohydrates are prescribed to people with diabetes to manage their blood glucose levels. But will this diet have any adverse effect on those with any existing renal conditions or complications, Doctor?
Okay, just one point at what Dr. Bansi Shabu has said about the reversal program. It is not reversal, it is a remission, because nothing is permanent. Today the blood sugar goes down and the drugs are taken off, and tomorrow the diabetes comes back. And that may occur with the bariatric surgery, with the very low calorie diet program like diet trial, or any other program which is going on at this point of time. So that is something that people must understand, that it is not that we are taking the diabetes from the root and throwing it away. It is never the case. As far as your question is concerned, I see any balanced diet is good for kidney. In fact, the current trials show that Mediterranean diets, which have plenty of oils like the olive oil, monounsaturated fatty acid, plenty of fruits and vegetables, that actually benefits kidney a lot, provided you stick to it. That is the problem in most of the cases, that non-compliance is the issue with most of the diet. However, it also depends on what kind of kidney dysfunction you have. For example, you may have just a microproteinuria, a little bit of protein in the urine, or macroproteinuria, large amount of protein in the urine, or you have, in addition, lowering of glomerular filtration rate, means the kidney function is majorly down, or combination of both. As a practicing clinician, and one who's conversant with most of the recent research, and for India specifically, we do not decrease protein in most of the cases in early kidney disease. The reason being that the protein intake of Indian population is 13% to 14% of the total calories, versus the Western population, which is around 18 to 20% of the total calories. We are anyway low on protein intake as such, and that makes our muscles, our bones, even our organs weaker than the many Western population. So if we decrease further protein, many people will do that. The moment they see protein in the urine, oh, you have to decrease protein. That's never should be done. And more importantly, if you are losing a huge amount of protein, say 1 gram per day or something like that, your albumin level in the blood is going to fall down, and you, on the top of that, you decrease protein, and you are going to create havoc to the body. This needs a proper adjustment of dietary protein intake. We don't overload it. We don't underload it. We give proper, depending on the blood protein level, depending on the whole profile, and depending on the degree of the renal dysfunction. Remember, protein is needed for muscles, protein is needed for bones, and lowering the protein actually will be detrimental to kidney, because they further will decrease the kidney function.
Okay. Rightly put. Thank you so much, Dr. Misra, for giving us this explanation. Ms. Khosla, so when we talk about foods, always foods rich in protein, carbohydrates, and everything, there's one aspect that we always need to discuss is what is the ideal exercise routine to be followed by someone with diabetes to manage? Is a 30-minute walk good enough, or should they do an intense and resistance training these days?
Well, I think the best guideline for this is do a combination. Walking is a cardiovascular exercise, but resistance exercises, which are called isometric exercises, along with stretching and flexibility and toning, are all required. So a good workout with a 30-minute walk is good. And particularly for diabetics, I would say regular walking or any other form of cardio, along with yoga, because that takes care of the stretching and toning and the resistance. So if you combine that, maybe 30 minutes of yoga with 30 minutes of cardio, or whatever you prefer to do as a sport or an outdoor activity, is important, and also should be done on a regular basis, not just in fits and spurts. So the regularity also adds to the benefit. And something to be added here, that for diabetics, even a 10-15 minute stroll after each meal, I have seen really is valuable in maintaining the blood sugar levels better. So that is something which is possible for most people today, and that should be done. And today I also see a lot of people doing 10,000 steps, etc., etc. So like I said, whatever works for you, do it, but do it regularly and do a combination.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Do it regularly, exercise regularly, and combination of it. It's a right way. Thank you so much. Move on to Dr. Sabu. Doctor, so we talked about all of these aspects, but very important aspect that I wanted to ask you is about the stress among younger generation is too much, and especially in the middle age, younger age for that matter. It's been increasing. The stress management programs are also equally increasing with remission of diabetes programs. So is it a major lifestyle risk factor for diabetes, doctor?
So one of the best stress management is exercise only. I fully agree with the combination of exercise, which works very well. And one thing which we can add here for the stress management is pranayama. That will help for the stress management also. Stress management, again, it's a very difficult question to be answered, because many times each and every patient who is coming to your clinic may have that, I have a stress. And to understand his stress from a doctor's also has become very difficult. Sometime or occasionally we send the person also to who is mental health specialist or a psychologist or even a psychiatrist also. But because of this competitive environment, I think each one of us is under stress. And that stress management require only some sort of a reassurance, counseling, educating. Then, the exercise, which is one of the biggest stress buster, and the socializing, and many more ways of doing it. Sometimes people feel that, the diabetes or even doing exercise is also stress for them. Getting up early in the morning because now doctor told him getting at 6 o'clock, or eat only this much and that much, or you have to create this, or you have to cook this. This could be a big stress for them also.
So following a routine itself is stress.
Exactly. So, the counseling and that really helps. Our educator, our social worker, they all help. But overall, what I can say that everyone, if it is the exercise and living life happily, that itself decreases your stress. And for the chronic disease, they must understand that if they know more about the disease, they can prevent it for their future generation. If they know more about the disease, they can manage it much better with the routine lifestyle, and they can prevent the complication. What is more important is they should prevent the complication. They should screen for the complication regularly. They should go and visit the doctor very regularly. They should take the medication very regularly. They should maintain their lifestyle more regularly, and doing exercise is most important thing. I think exercise is one thing which many of us, they feel that just by doing 8,000 steps or 10,000 steps is sufficient. No, muscle strengthening is very, very important, and they should do other exercise also, which include stretching, yoga, the abdominal exercise, pranayama for mental health. Everything should be included. I recommend normally 80 minutes per day. That includes everything in combination. That should be done.
Okay, right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabu. We were also thinking about how does stress increases diabetes or glucose levels, or how does it factor in, doctor? If you could just...
So that stress increases a lot of counter-regulatory hormones in the body, the adrenaline or the cortisol level, and they all increases the sugar level. So there is a stress-induced hyperglycemia. Those who have already uncontrolled diabetes, the stress will further increase their glucose level also. Sometimes stress is so much, like in hospital patient, we see those who are hospitalized and having other acute problems like fever or even myocardial infarction or sometime in ICU, the stress level increases, the sugar level very, very high. So we know that stress-induced hyperglycemia, as well as the person who's having uncontrolled diabetes, it becomes further uncontrolled. And it becomes difficult sometimes for us also to control the sugar level. But as soon as the stress level goes down, a number of medication, the insulin requirement that goes suddenly down, it is all because of counter-regulatory hormone in our body increases so much that increases their sugar level very high.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor. While we move on to the last question to all the panelists one by one, request the viewers who are listening in to please send in your questions under the questions tab so that we will take them one by one after the closing remarks by all of the panel members. Moving on to the last question to Dr. Misra. Recently, it was pointed out that there should be some strict regulations against celebrities endorsing unhealthy food. Is this sort of a regulation of marketing of ultra-processed food bound to be useful for keeping a curb on the prevalence of type 2 diabetes?
Okay, just one point on what Dr. Banshi Sabu has rightly and very nicely has said. Sometime back, we made exercise regulation for the whole country, and which was published. Reviewing the literature, we found that Indians need more exercise than any other race. And suppose we do 45 minutes of walking and a white person does 30 minutes of walking, both will have similar benefits. So we have to do more. So our recommendation was 45 minutes of walking and 5 to 10 minutes of resistance training. We had no recommendation for yoga in that, but 10 minutes of that and 5 minutes of stretching exercise of any kind. If we do 60 minutes of exercise, now people say, I don't have that much of time. Well, if you have to maintain health, you have to have that much of time. 6 days a week, leave aside 7 days. I usually recommend 7 out of 7 days. You will be fine. Or if you're diabetic, you will be prevented from developing a complication also. This is the most important part in the management of any person with diabetes. Now, coming to your question, I am entirely against celebrities endorsing all those junk food. And clearly, if you look at the world data and take Brazil, for example, which is a similar country as ours, similar in socioeconomic strata and similar in obesity and diabetes also, there the endorsement by celebrities and front of the food labeling have been done and very clearly done, and have the subsequent studies have showed clear impact of cutting down on obesity and type 2 diabetes. Now, whether alone celebrities endorsement will have a clear impact or multiple other things are needed. For example, let's say more tax on the oils which are harmful, more tax on the some other things which are made in trans fatty acid, less tax on the vegetables. Now, there are studies which clearly show that if we double the taxation on the harmful oils, etc., then we are going to lower the heart disease in India. But who is going to do that? That is government's responsibility. So that's where I am going to be helpless. I can only tell you, but I can also tell you that if I say about a healthier lifestyle, very few will listen. But a celebrity does a wrong thing, many people will come back to me where that celebrity has told me to do, or they have said, endorse this thing, this must be good. And I have trouble convincing people that that is not good.
Yes, sir. But however, the awareness that you've been creating, I think it will make a lot of difference, and we hope it makes a difference. Moving on to Ms. Ishi Khosla, the last question that I would also want to draw a few lines from what Dr. Misra had said. Should there be a stricter laws when it comes to food labeling, and should there be diabetes or diabetic specific warning on food packages?
Should there be warning? Should there be labeling? All that also, I think the last 2 decades we have seen happening. We have endorsements and warnings. If you look at food packets, nutrition labeling has been there. How much of it has translated into eating, change in eating behaviors is a question. And I think it's high time we addressed that aspect, because the data speaks louder than anything else. The trends are only getting bad to worse. I was just reading your tagline, better knowledge, better health. I'm afraid, while I know this is a statement made in good intent, but whether knowledge translates into better action and health is questionable. We are far more knowledgeable, far more aware, far better informed as youngsters and adults than our previous generations. Yet, we are succumbing to illnesses like never before.
Absolutely.
Whether it's cancer, whether it's heart disease, whether it is diabetes, whether it is neurological problems, whether it is neurodevelopmental problems, autism, we've not heard of these conditions. They are just booming. So is eating behavior really going to change by more information? Is a question to debate. And the best example here would be cigarette smoking. Every smoker is completely aware of the fact that it is harmful for them. Yet there are warnings of the deadliest kind on the pack itself each time he lights up. But does that change behavior? So that's the question we need to draw from that. And in the beginning of the, so I'm all for positive labeling. I'm all for better labeling. We need to revisit what we have been proposing and propagating about food. We need to talk in terms of foods rather than nutrients. That's number one. I always believe that half information, half knowledge can go completely awry, and it does with respect to food. If I have diabetics who say, oh, we are gluten-free, so this product is fine for us. It has no gluten, but that doesn't matter. It could be equally unhealthy, if not worse. Somebody who's picking up a health bar, which is completely made of synthetic ingredients, processed protein, and completely synthetic forms of nutrients. And it just said high vitamin C, 1,000 times more something, something, something. And she's having that every day based on the fact that the physician told her that vitamin C is good for her, and it needs to be taken every day. And so she thinks that this was going to complement her food. It was completely the opposite. So there are so many examples to be given here. So let's not go into that, labeling is going to, really improve. But what we have to talk about is having so many, say this particular food is going to help you achieve a better, say you're getting closer to your goals for fruits and vegetables, or this is going to be good for your gut. This is going to be good for inflammation. So what we are going to be saying on the pack has to change. And too much of nutrition information can stand on its head in terms of its impact. Completely the opposite. So we are not eating good fats. We are eating unhealthy fats simply because we've gone into too much, and people get completely confused. That's number one. And also the impact of a celebrity is profound. It's huge, not debatable. I mean, it is the way people are, no matter what we say. So responsible endorsements are important. So I personally feel labeling the right way, creating a healthy competition among food manufacturers to prepare healthy food. In Japan, there is a system of labeling called FOSHU, which is foods of special health uses. So it goes beyond nutrition, and the government has taken the onus on itself, and that list of foods grows every year, because then manufacturers are trying to make healthier food products for people, regardless of, the issues which we're talking about, calories, proteins, carbs. Those are for the experts. Those are tools for us to interpret. For people, it becomes very, very, it becomes dangerous. Right. So I'm going to leave my answer to that.
Thank you, ma'am. So to address this, one of the viewers also commented particularly on this particular aspect, that WHO report also recommends more GST on ultra processed food. If you can comment on that.
I mean, that's certainly a way forward. Promotion of the taxation on healthy foods should be completely, revised and lowered, and on junk food should be raised. I mean, there's nothing to debate there. Absolutely right. But again, remember, eating behaviors need to be addressed at a deeper level. So I can be adding a whole lot of additives and making that a packet of chips completely addictive for a person, and still comply with the norms. I can still say they are trans fat free, lower in salt, controlled carbohydrates, yet it could be unhealthy for me. And the best example, since we are talking about diabetes today, and you have StevioCal as your sponsor, it's important to address what has happened with sweeteners for the last 2 decades. We just believed that it was healthier for us to have sucralose or to have aspartame and similar sweeteners because they had zero carb or virtually zero carb and calories, and they were non-caloric, and therefore they were better for us. We did not address the fact that they were actually causing a negative shift in the microbiome. I spoke about that in the beginning. And if that is the case, that really is a point to, just as to explain what I'm talking about, that just simply calories and proteins, those are technical things. So people should not be given those tools, and we should not have this reductionist approach. We have to go down to the microbiome and to see how they're affecting our gut. Are they pro-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory? And to that extent, the best sweetener today in terms of lower calorie or non-calorie sweetener is stevia, because it is a natural product. So, and I had patients who would tell me that if they have a diet drink, their sugars go up. And if they have a regular drink, their sugars don't go up. And we had no answers 20 years ago. But today we understand things far better.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. We move on to the last question of this session by closing remarks by Dr. Sabu. Doctor, so do you think it's a high time collectively to tackle this community level, as the projected health figures indicate that diabetes will become the biggest burden on our health budget?
Yes, and before that, one last comment which I want to do it, as Dr. Khosla was talking very rightly, that people are aware that everyone who smoke, he knows that it can lead to cancer and it can lead to problem, and that is what the health awareness is increasing. But people are not becoming health literate. So we have to do something which is increasing health literacy. Unless you increase health literacy, people should adapt those positive lifestyle in their day-to-day lifestyle. People know that doing exercise is going to improve their cardiovascular health, but they don't do it regularly. And that's an important message which one should take it very positively. And like just increasing the taxation on a unhealthy food, on a processed food, will it decrease the consumption, or that behavior psychology we have to understand? Just by increasing the taxation on these, or the endorsement by the celebrity, will it decrease or increase their consumption? I think we have to make people more aware about it, that just by why it is more costly. Not it is more costly because it is healthy food. It is unhealthy food, and the government had put more tax on it, and some celebrity had endorsed it. Sometimes even celebrity, they don't know themselves that they are endorsing an unhealthy food product also. So that is also a debatable issue, and the government and the system should help them also. From the organization point of view, being now in Southeast Asia chair-elect and past president of RSSDA and from Diabetes India, we try to increase the awareness across the country, for making them not only for health aware, but also for as a health educator, or they should become like a health literate, and they should adapt this healthy lifestyle in their day-to-day life to prevent diabetes itself. As you have said, that we have 101 million people with diabetes and 136 people pre-diabetic, and maybe many more who are at the risk of developing diabetes. So unless we do something very strongly across the country, then we will not able to prevent the diabetes in our country. In another 5 or 10 years, it is again going to increase in number.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor. That was a very strong message that sends across all our viewers. We come to the question and answer sessions. Then we've got around 9 open questions, a few directed to Dr. Mishra, a few directed to Ms. Khosla and also Mr. Sabu. I'll take one by one. Dr. Mishra, the first question, Ruchi Mandalia, our viewer, also is asking about, please throw some light on pre-diabetes stage, how to prevent it or control it.
Okay, that's a easy question because whatever we are talking about for reversal of diabetes, we talk about in the same manner for pre-diabetes. And there is a clear data, a 15-year data of diabetes prevention study, followed by which initially took place for 4 years and showed that as compared to lifestyle, metformin, and the usual, the lifestyle is the winner. Lifestyle changes, and they had supervised lifestyle changes, diet and exercise. They are the winner as compared to drug metformin. That was 4 years data. And then subsequently it was extended to 15 years when the control part of the trial was over. And even at 15 years, those who initially stuck to a lifestyle, and they are still faring the best in 15 years. So body remembers whatever you do initially to reverse pre-diabetes to normal glucose. Remember, we as Indians have more difficulty in reversing pre-diabetes to normal versus the Western population by almost 50% more difficult. Right. But if we do it right, 1 hour of exercise and the dietary changes that we have, you can do it. So that should be the goal. Reversal from pre-diabetes to normal glucose regulation.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Banshi Sabu has left because of prior commitments. Thank you, Doctor. We will convey his regards. I'll take the questions for Dr. Mishra and Dr. Khosla now. Another reader, another viewer, Doctor, is good afternoon, sir. How much is alcohol too much for people with diabetes? What are the precautions for people with diabetes as far as the alcohol consumption is concerned?
Okay, so it depends on the condition of the liver. Number one, condition of your blood, where specifically on triglyceride, and condition of your feet if you're developing neuropathy, because all three will be affected by alcohol. So consider a diabetic patient who doesn't have nerve problem, whose triglyceride is less than 150, which is normal, and his liver is not enlarged, not full of fat. Then this person can take twice a week around 30 to 45 ml each time of alcohol, and still no harm will come to you. However, alcohol has another effect, and that is on the blood sugar. It may increase blood sugar or it may decrease blood sugar. So please have a couple of blood tests done at home after alcohol and see what kind of reaction you might have, or nothing may happen. Consider another patient who has a 20 centimeter liver. Now today itself, I have one such patient where we looked using the some test and looked at the inside the liver and found fibrosis in the liver, which means stiffening, major stiffening. His triglyceride was 450 and is now in the field of damage. Now, in such cases, keeping all the things in mind, it's better to abstain from alcohol. So it depends on person to person and situation to situation.
Okay. Thank you. Another question to Ms. Khosla is that honey or jaggery or any kind of artificial sweetener as an alternative to refined sugar would be better for all kind of sweeteners, should be avoided by people with diabetes?
My answer will be with the qualification. The artificial sweeteners are certainly to be completely avoided, number one. If you must take small quantities of jaggery or honey, it's absolutely fine. And that's what I see with a lot of my patients. And these are patients who have actually reversed their diabetes, or they have reduced their pill burden substantially and in very short times. And they get quite taken aback when they're doing their readings that, oh, we had this sweet and the sugars didn't go up. We had a little honey and nothing happened. So again, honey, as nutrition-based people, we all condemned as high carbohydrate and high sugar, and so also for the refined, the unrefined forms of sugar, which is jaggery. But foods are way beyond just that. For instance, there are enzymes in honey. There are other nutrients in jaggery. Honey is a prebiotic, which is good for the gut. So like I said earlier, let's not reduce food to only nutrients. There are many other properties of food which need to be addressed. So people with diabetes, as a part of a healthy diet, as with fats, with proteins, with fiber, if they are taking small amounts of honey and jaggery, it is not going to disturb their glycemic control. That's for one. And number two, you must be physically active. We've already talked about that. Just in case you had sugar, you can always do a sort of a reset or rebalance by exercising a little bit more or controlling some other form of carbohydrate, just in case you had. And let's be real, we all eat food because we have a relationship with food. No matter how knowledgeable I am, even after this webinar, I am going to go back to eating what I feel like eating. So let's be real and let's not just be theoretical about things. So one has to have the tools and the information to be dealing with these real-time situations. And so otherwise, you just lose the plot completely. So we are going to have our sugar, we are going to have our sweets, but how to have them, limit them. And there are very few people who really can do with complete zero sweets. And the other is, if I'm taking this opportunity to talk about sweets, it's important to understand that fruits also contribute significantly to sugars for a diabetic or a non-diabetic, but more important to be considered when you have metabolic issues. So yes, fructose can be in excess can be a problem. A question which is very commonly asked is, can diabetics have fruits? But yes, they can in limited amounts. Fruits are healthy, but they need to be.
That was our next question. Actually, I was about to ask you.
Yes. So I just thought, because we're talking about sugars, we might as well address it, because we don't include them in the sugars. And the other thing which we don't include in our sugars is, as an important source of blood glucose, is all the grains. Whether it's rice or roti or millets or whatever else. These are all just one step away from sugar. A slice of bread, we think it's food, but it is glucose. At the end of the day, 1 tablespoon of sugar in 1 slice of bread. So we must include that as a part of our sugar burden. And but some grains are more, they have a higher glycemic effect compared to others. And wheat is one of the highest, and so also rice. But rice doesn't cause inflammation, whereas wheat does. And therefore, our Prime Minister has brought up the whole narrative on millets as alternative grains, as the grains of the future. So, so that is where we need to look at not just sugars and not just a little bit of jaggery and a honey. It's an entire load of sugar from various sources.
Yeah. Ma'am, just one last question while you're talking about the fruits and everything. One of our viewer, Anshu Sharma, has also asked about how can healthy food items to be made cheaper? Most of seasonal fruits and veggies are costly. Malnutrition, including diabetes, is impacting all socioeconomic stratas.
I am not willing to believe that to eat healthy, you have to spend extra bucks. That's completely fallacious, not required, not to be, even thought of ever, because you, in fact, when you climb up, you get all the ingredients which should not be eaten. For instance, a villager who's growing his, in his fields, the grains and the vegetables and fruits and whatever he has, and he doesn't even have sugar. So those are not costly. So just getting basic staples, green leafy vegetables, the onions and the onions are a bit controversial, but green chilies and garlic, and they are really not costly. The bhuna chanas and the monkey nuts that are available through the sea. So it's not rocket science to eat healthy. We just need to be food literate and not nutrition literate and get the guidelines out in that fashion so that people can just make healthier choices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this explanation. I would like to wrap up this entire session with one last question to Dr. Misra. So one of our viewers has asked us, how soon can one develop diabetes if they have a family history of the conditions? Can one stay
Yeah.
diabetes-free following a healthy lifestyle despite a family condition?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes it's very difficult to fight against the genes.
Yeah.
But so what my advice to people who have family history of diabetes is that you maintain a very active exercise schedule. 45 minutes to 1 hour, I've already explained to. Maintain your muscles well and to do some weightlifting from the early age. And stick to very basic, simple diet, and which means I always say wheat roti, along with if you mix a little bit of base, that's a complex carbohydrate, and that works well in most of the patient as far as carbohydrate is concerned. Has a very low glycemic index, the best. And along with green leafy vegetables, uh, with less salt, the oils we have already mentioned, you have a chilke wali dal, you have at least three more fruits, and fruits are not going to damage you, no way, if you are maintaining a healthy lifestyle. And talking of honey a little bit, we have recently reviewed a paper which are going to publish that 50% of the studies say that if you take honey, then your blood glucose control goes haywire if you are diabetic, and 50% don't. So we have no final data on honey. And most of the people, when they say, oh, you can take a little bit of honey, they take a whole lot of honey. So please avoid simple sugars to the maximum possible. Avoid the artificial beverages, sweetened beverages. Avoid cakes and pastries, and limit your oils to 3 teaspoonfuls a day for your cooking, 3 to 4 teaspoonfuls, and maintain your weight within the narrow range of body mass index. What is narrow range of body mass index? Between 19 to 23. And that's what Dr. Bashir Chabu was saying, that we are coming up with the new obesity guidelines for India. We made it in 2009, and we are coming up again. And Lancet is also, I'm part of the Lancet new obesity guidelines worldwide, is also coming with the same. So we are going to see those things, and the way we look at obesity will be totally different after that. So if you do that, you may fight well against the genes, but sometimes genes may overcome you. But if you have 60 to 70% chance of overcoming the genes if you do that.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much, all the panelists. Apologies for exceeding the program by 10 minutes. Dr. Anup Mishra, Executive Chairman, Fortis CDoc Hospital for Diabetes and Allied Sciences. We also thank Ms. Ishi Khosla, Clinical Nutritionist, columnist, author, entrepreneur, public health expert, and welfare worker. We also thank Dr. Bansi Sabu, Chief Diabetologist and Chairman, Diacare, Diabetes Care and Hormone Clinic at Ahmedabad. I think he just left us a few minutes back. We'll also thank our sponsors, Steviacol, a natural sweetener. It has no sugar and no carbs, making it a perfect choice for diet management and a healthy lifestyle. We'll also would like to make an announcement. Happiest Health will be launching a diabetes management program called Living Without Diabetes very soon. We will open the registrations this week. Through this program, you will be able to incorporate healthier habits into your daily routine, and we'll see your blood glucose levels coming down steadily with each module. After you register, we will send you all the modules in your inbox, and you will learn what to do and what not to do to manage your blood glucose levels. So please watch this space as we unveil our most anticipated program of the year, and please log on to www.happiesthealth.com. Thank you so much, all the panelists. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.